Being able to improvise a melody or make one up on the spot is a super useful skill when it comes to improvising and learning piano as a whole. Your piano teacher Tim here, and today I'm going to be giving you an introduction on how to improvise a melody. Before we really get into it, you need to understand a few key terms before we begin. First of all, what is a melody? Well, the melody is usually the top part of the piece. It can be on the left hand as well, but usually on the top. And it's the part of the song that you will remember and hum to yourself. So say Jingle Bells, right? That is the melody for Jingle Bells. The background chords happen to be called the harmony. So just be aware of that. Melody is like that. It's usually one note at a time going on, and then harmony is usually where you're hitting multiple notes, and that provides the background sound. We also need to go over what a key is. A key is basically all the notes you're going to be seeing in a sheet of music with any sharps or flats added in. Keys tend to have either, not tend, they always have either sharps or flats. You're not going to see a key with a B flat and an F sharp or something like that. That doesn't happen. You're just either going to have a key with a certain number of sharps or a certain number of flats. And they go up to 7 sharps and 7 flats. And the reason behind that is that when we have a scale, which is when you put all of the notes in a key together from beginning to end, we have 7 individual notes. So you can really only sharp those 7 notes. You can't sharp any more than that, otherwise it'll just be redundant. Okay, next I'm going to be teaching you about the key signature. Now, what does a key signature do? Well, a key signature is the visual representation on your music of what sharps or flats you're going to have. So obviously, see, you have 1 sharp here. And basically, this is how it works. So if you had a note right here on that top line where that sharp is, what note would that be? Well, that would be F, right? So that tells you that all Fs in the whole song, whole piece, unless it tells you otherwise, are going to be sharped. No matter what. It doesn't matter whether they're on a different space or on the exact line that they, or space that they are written on. Now, obviously, like I mentioned before, take a look through here. We have all of our different keys. They go up in sharps. And whenever you're adding sharps in a key, you have all of the previous sharps before that. So the key of G major has 1 sharp, F sharp. The key of D major has 2 sharps, F sharp, the one before it, and then C sharp. The next one after that is going to have F sharp, C sharp, and then G sharp, and then that is the key of A. And then the same thing applies to the flats. So you don't, well, I really do recommend that you become familiar and memorize all the keys, the name of the key, what sharps or flats are in there. Also, practice your scales is going to be really, really helpful when learning how to improvise a melody. But you at least need to understand how to look and interpret a key signature. Okay, some important melody tips. We're finally on to the main part of the lesson here. One thing you want to keep in mind is that whatever key that you're in, you first have to determine what key you're in. And whatever key you're in, you have to be making sure that when you're playing that melody, that you have any necessary sharps or flats that are included in that key. Because if you don't do that, then it's going to sound terrible. So like I mentioned before, learn all of your scales if possible, because you'll just know them right off the bat. And when we're using our when we're improvising our melody, we're actually going to be using segments of the scale. We're either going to be using just part of the scale. We might skip up the scale. In an arpeggio, we might leap like that, something like that. So just keep that in mind, that whatever scale you're using, that's literally the set of notes that you're mostly going to be working with. Now, as you get really good and you know more of the theory behind it, you can start to use other notes. But for right now, stick to those key notes. Okay, building on that, you also have to pay attention to whatever chords that are going on in your left hand. So if you're improvising a melody with a band, you have to know what chords they're playing in what measures. Because that when you're playing in a measure and you hit, first of all, these are called chord tones, the notes that belong in the chord. So if I'm playing a C major chord My chord tones are C, E, and G. So if I start the melody on a non-chord tone, does that sound very good? I would say no. But what if I start the melody on a chord tone? Oh, that sounds good. Oh, that sounds good. That sounds good. So when you're first learning how to do this, play it safe, and you have to pay attention to each measure and what's going on with the chords in it. And at first, stick to chord tones, or if you're experimenting around and you find that it just doesn't sound good, then go back to the basics and just stick to your chord tones. Now, if you want to learn how to use non-chord tones, that's a whole set of music theory, basically. I'm not going to go over that today because it would just make the lesson way too long. But if you start to get really good at using the chord tones and your melodies are sounding too simplistic, then look up something called non-chord tones and learn how those work. Just throwing that out there in case you really want to get into this stuff. All right, now I'm going to teach you about what makes a good melody. Well, I got to explain three things. A melody does three things. It steps, it skips, and it leaps. So what does that mean? Well, stepping is literally when you're moving from one note to the next note. I mean, you can move up and down, that's no problem, but you're moving between consecutive notes right next to each other. Skips are literally when you're skipping every other note, just like that. Leap is when you basically jump higher than a skip. So even that would be considered a leap because that is a skip. Now, what's the deal with this? Why did I bring this up? Well, a melody uses mostly steps, fewer skips, and way fewer leaps. Now, let's take a look here. So if I start out the melody, right, and what would happen, and I said they use very few leaps. What if I used all leaps? I'm going to kind of demonstrate why a melody usually doesn't use a lot of leaps. Well, I'm just going to do all leaps. I mean, it was okay, but as you can see, it was too disjointed. Bump, 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 bump. They're just not really a good melody, at least not in a lot of cases. Maybe a certain genre of music that might be okay, but for most, that ain't gonna fly. So this is how you should do a melody. Mostly steps. And then maybe a few skips, like a skip here or there. And then if I'm changing chord, I gotta be careful that I'm using mostly chord tones, or at least starting on a chord tone. You can actually use non-chord tones in between. And then I'm going to change chords again. Just like that. Now it's not the most encouraged melody or not the most profound melody in the world, very simplistic, but that's how you want to begin, because if you start experimenting around all over the place, you're not really going to get anywhere. You always want to start like very simple. It's not going to sound super impressive or inspired, that's the word I was thinking of, but basically you just want to build a little bit on from there each time. So mostly steps and a couple of skips. I actually didn't have any leaps in there, so let me try to add in a leap. Yeah, that was a little bit better, so I just added in a couple leaps here or there. So just keep that in mind. Okay, and then just a little pro tip here. When you're ending your melody, and say you have a chord, say you have a C chord right at the end, well, you just, what I recommend you do is end on the root of the chord, which is whatever chord it is. So C major, the root is C. That will give it a very final kind of sound, because if you end on like another note, let me try to make up a melody here and show you what I mean. See, if I end there, it kind of sounds like it should continue, whereas if I do this, that sounds a lot more final. So that's just a little pro tip for you. You can also use this tip in the other way, where if you wanted it to sound like it was going to continue going, then you can select one of those other ones. I always recommend the fifth if you want it to sound like it's going to continue, your melody's going to continue going. Next, I'm going to teach you a little bit about phrasing, because if you just kind of make up the melody and it just kind of flows without any kind of direction, it's not really going to have the kind of impact that you as the composer might want it to have. So let's take a look at a piece of music together and just take a look at the melody here on this first line. Now, what I want you to take note of, we're going to be looking at the first 4 measures of this piece. And what I want you to keep note of is that measure 1 and measure 3 look similar, no? You got a quarter note and then all those eighth notes. You got a quarter note and then all those eighth notes. And then take a look at measure 2 and measure 4. They're similar. They're not exactly the same, but they're similar. You got the D, G, G, and then 4. Just those 3 G's there, but the same kind of movement, same kind of pattern. So what you need to start doing is thinking about, when you're improvising a melody, on basically how you can create these little segments or these little phrases so that it makes sense. So let's just kind of apply it to what we're doing here. So I'm going to be playing a simple 1, 4, 5, 1 progression. If you don't know what that is, totally fine. Not super important for this lesson, but just say that's what we got. And let's take a look here. So in measure 1, what I want is for measure 1 and measure 3 to be similar. Measure 2 and measure 4 to be similar, so that they have a kind of flow to them. Here we go. And here's measure 2. It's going to be completely different. And then measure 3. And then that was similar to measure 1. And then back to the last one, which was similar to measure 4. So let me try it out. Something like that. And one thing I want to tell you is that when you start doing this, your melodies are not going to sound very inspired. They're going to sound clunky. You're going to be frustrated. It's not going to sound that great. But trust me, it's something that as you work on over and over and over and over again, it really starts to become more a part of yourself. You're going to start to learn little tricks, little things you can do to break the rules and make your melodies sound a lot better. For instance, when I was first learning, say, the B-flat blues years ago, which is how I learned to improvise a melody. When I first started, I was maybe doing this kind of stuff, just maybe playing chord tones. Which, don't get me wrong, none of the notes clash because they're all chord tones, but not very exciting. But since I've gotten really good at it, I can, just basically comes out of me. And that's because I've practiced that kind of improv over and over and over again. So it's something that it takes time, and it takes a lot of trial and error, and just takes a lot of persistence. So just throwing that out there, because you need to know that, or you're going to quit on it because it will frustrate you. Okay, if you want to learn more about phrasing, because there are many different types, and it's just a good review to really get it written down of everything I've said. Now, this can be wordy, this can be a little bit confusing, but you want to at least look through this page to see if you can get a better idea, basically on how phrases and periods and things like that work. I didn't want to get super into it today, because today was really an introduction on how to improvise a melody, so I didn't want to bog it down with all this extra stuff. But if you're interested, check out this Wikipedia page. Just go to Wikipedia. You can type in music phrases, or I will try, somebody will remind me, I'm sure, to put a link to this in the description. All right, if you found this lesson helpful, make sure you smash that like button, because it lets other students know that this is a quality lesson that they can learn from as well. Okay, back to the lesson. So if you're digging what you see over here on the channel, you're finding my lessons really helpful, make sure you check out my website, pianolessonsontheweb.com, where I have over 20 courses designed to help you learn a lot more about piano and music. And whether you're a beginner who needs a solid foundation to build on, or you have experience already and you're looking to take things to that next level, my courses will help you do just that. You're going to be able to learn piano music theory, improvisation, rhythm, ear training, and pretty much anything else I thought you would need to be a well-rounded musician. Now, if you just discovered me, or you need a review of the basics, then I have courses there for you. But also, if you've been following me for a while and you're looking for some new material that I haven't covered on the channel, or at least not nearly as much detail, you definitely want to check out the courses. Another big benefit of the courses is not only do they include instructional videos like YouTube, but they also include printable sheet music or real sheet music to play, printable sheet music examples, assignments, worksheets, activities. These are courses, so basically you're going to be learning. You're also going to get the opportunity to practice and master each topic as well. Unlike YouTube, where I usually introduce something and then I might give you like a little practice thing and then we move on. This is a lot more comprehensive. If you want to learn more about how to improvise, check out this playlist of lessons here. Be sure to check out some of the other lessons on the channel as well. I have a huge catalog you definitely want to check out. Make sure you're subscribed. You have all notifications turned on because we have new lessons coming out all the time and you don't want to miss a beat. It's been your piano teacher Tim here. Thanks so much for coming by, and I'll see you all in the next lesson.